All right, now I know I told you guys no more install videos, no more garage installs until the end of desert season, but there are a few more things I need to button up on this version of the build, this 2.0 version of the build. And as you can see, we're working in the front wheel well today. But to kind of explain what we're doing in the wheel well today, you need to know what's going on in the wheel well when I'm out in the desert. So when I'm off-roading in the desert and I compress like all the way up, the tires hitting are not a problem anymore. What the problem is this boxed upper control arm smashing into everything up here. You can see this bracket's bent all the way up to the roof and kind of chewed up. This one is gouging the edge of the upper control arm. You can see it chewed up right there. You can see this flap where the whole rim right here, or I guess the inside, goes up and chews away. It's dented, it's scraping. This bracket gets pushed back every time. And on the other side, not this side, there's bolts that come through from the top of the engine bay right here. It's just piercing into the upper control arm. So needless to say, I need something to stop that up travel a little bit sooner than what it's doing right now. Now, there's nothing wrong with how it feels. When I'm off-roading, everything feels so buttery. I don't really feel that going on. It's more of just a peace of mind thing, knowing that my upper control arm is not getting chewed to shit and beating up the top of the wheel well, backside of the engine bay. So that leads us into what we're doing today. When I was at the off-road meet this weekend, DuroBumps was there in person, so I was able to pick up a set of DuroBumps, which are an OEM replacement style bump that goes into the factory mounting spot. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why didn't you just ball out and go with King Bumps? Well, that was an initial thought because I'm doing King Bumps in the rear, but after doing some research on forums and asking around, since I am mid-travel with a stock lower control arm setup, if I were to try to go ahead and do the King Bumps, the geometry and the cycling just does not work with it. It just doesn't work. Simple way to put it. I think the bump would be like resting right against the lower control arm at best. Maybe it would already be compressed a little bit, but yeah, the geometry and the cycling just doesn't work with the setup I have with King Bumps. So I guess that's kind of good because it saves me some money, but we have a direct DuroBump replacement. All we have to do is unscrew these bumps that are in here right now, screw in these new bumps, and it should provide a softer cushion, and it should stop me from going up as high in theory. I don't know. I never asked around, I never ran the numbers, but these do look larger than the ones that are in there right now, so hopefully it'll stop it in time. Now I know I've talked a lot, but last thing I need to say is it's not gonna be as simple as just unscrewing these and screwing the new ones in. I mean, yes, the install is that simple, but what I wanna do today is I wanna pull out the coilover so I can go ahead and cycle the control arm spindle setup and see where it's hitting with the stock bump, and then once I put the new one in, I'll cycle it again and see where it stops with the new bump. So I'm making it a little bit harder on myself just for you guys and just to see what the difference is, but now that I've talked your ear off, let's get into this. Don't you just love how this could be such a simple like 20-minute install, but I'm gonna make it an ordeal.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome. Don't you regret?
Tom loves this man.
Don't you regret saying, man, we don't ever hang out? You ready? Huge shout out to DuroBumps though. I met the guy that was hosting the booth at the Rodeo Rigs meet, and he was super, super nice. We stood there and chopped it up for a little bit. He gave me this free shirt, gave me a bunch of free stickers that have not been released yet, and gave me some unreleased dog products. Oh. Since I know you guys are heavily invested on what Dime's doing to his truck at all times, once these are done, the last thing I need to do with the front end before like the 2.0 version is done with the front end is just freshen up all the hardware in this upper control arm. They're like 6 or 7 years old, so.
Might give your viewers a free little ass shot right now.
A free little ass shot, he says. The viewers are gonna get a free little ass shot. I don't know if you're allowed near my fans anymore.
Big Daddy.
Bro, what is this guy wearing? What is this? Okay, you can see how high this thing has to go to do what it's been doing. It goes up that's how far my suspension compresses. That's hitting the top right there. So everything goes that freaking high to chop. Now I can actually see what it hits. It's chopping here. Isn't that crazy? It sits right here. This is where like it normally sits, maybe a little higher. You see this mark? And you would not think it's hitting this back here. You think it's hitting like what's above it, but it just articulates so far back that it just chops. This hits this is always touching this hard line right here. And I'm like, how does this keep getting bent back? It's because this comes all the way up and smacks it. What's wild is I even have markings right here. So that means that this went up high enough and hit so hard that it dented that in, and this went up another inch and still fucking hit that, dude.
Yeah, moral of the story, dime sends his truck, man.
That's crazy. You're staring at the bottom side of this, dude. That's absurd. Oh, whoa, whoa. I could oil this whole thing while I'm at it. Yeah, the other side's worse. I wish I was gonna do this on the other side, but I'm definitely not tearing that side apart like I'm doing this side. But I wanna see where it hits that bolt that's sticking out right there. Yeah, oh yeah. Quick release.
Maybe.
It's the good old fashioned ejecto-cedo car.
Should probably help him.
No.
Oh, wow.
I'm a professional. All right, so this is about what the ride height is at when it's sitting on all of its own weight and everything. And I'm measuring from the outside since it's at an angle. The outside's about 2 inches apart. I would assume that's kind of how much up travel it has before it makes contact because, again, it's at an angle, but once it comes up, you see that it flattens out a bit. So we're gonna say about 2 inches. But now when we jack it up, I wanna see how much room is left. I mean, it still makes contact, you could see, but I wanna see like how much is left once this rests against the top of the wheel well. Look how high this thing goes, dude. Oh, that's maxed. Okay, okay, so Alrighty, so as you guys saw, the camera just took quite a spill and the transponder got a little messed up, so like none of the audio recorded for the next few clips. So I'll add the clips that were recorded and I'll kind of just do a little bit of a voiceover kind of explaining what happened between then and now. Okay, so what we were recording on the other side was the control arm and spindle assembly cycling up without the coilover so we can see where the strike pad meets the bump, and once it touches the bump, we checked and saw how much room was between the upper control arm and the top of the wheel well, just so we can see how much room was there once it makes contact and see how much absorption that bump is taking. And what we saw is when the strike pad was just meeting the bump, there was about 2 fingers, about 1.5 inches of room between where the upper control arm was about to meet the top of the wheel well. So that means that the bump pad was compressing almost as much as it could and then some, and just completely smashing the upper control arm into the bottom of this. So we went ahead and screwed off the old bump and then went ahead and screwed in the brand new DuroBump. And once we had the old bump off, we were able to compare side by side to the new DuroBumps, and what we could see is that they're pretty similar in size. I think this little notch here at the bottom is definitely the difference in size, which is about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch where the strike pad is going to go ahead and meet the bump. So we have a little bit bigger of a bump, and I think we're going to get softer compression down here in this notch, and then it gets a lot harder once it gets up to here. So this should go ahead and stop the arm before it crashes through the top of the wheel well. So now with the new bump in, it is time to go ahead and cycle the arms again and see what that difference looks like. Okay, so the back of the strike pad is already making contact with the bump, but I want to try to get it a little more level, I guess. Okay, so we can see it's already making contact here, but I think the difference between this and the stock one is since the stock one has a metal base that screws in versus this being rubber through and through and a bolt in the center, it's able to flex a little bit more. You can see up here at the top, there's a little gapping on this side and it's pressed on that side because it's grabbing that back corner and pulling it a bit. So I think it's able to flex a little bit more once it has contact around. Either that or I just didn't tighten it enough, but I think I tightened it more than enough. So I think it's going to flex a little more when it makes contact like that, and then once it starts to press up more, it'll probably flatten out a bit, but it's sort of, I think my predictions were right. It's sort of a softer compound there on the bottom notch, and that's going to absorb a lot of the shock in a smooth manner, but then once it gets to that main body part, I think is where it's really going to start to stop the truck a lot and eat a lot of that momentum. So let's see how much room we have up top. So before, when the bump was touching the strike pad, I only had I could barely fit 2 fingers in. I kind of had to move the second one a little bit to get it in there, but now we are comfortably fitting 4, maybe 4.5 to 5 fingers worth of room in here where it's making contact already. So yeah, we're definitely going to stop from chewing the top, I believe. But again, it's all going to come down to once there's a whole bunch of force, like smashing through a whoop or landing on a jump, and seeing how much force is pushed up into this rubber bump, just how much it's going to be able to eat before it lets it get up to the top here. Again, I didn't do a whole bunch of research on this, but it was just kind of a no-brainer. You could kind of tell, like, it's going to be doing exactly what I needed to do. It's a little bit larger of a bump, maybe half an inch to a quarter of an inch, and it's a gradual, I believe it's a gradual progression kind of compound. So I think it's definitely going to stop my upper control arm from smashing through that. I think it's going to be a lot softer of a cushion when it's going into it versus just that hard hockey puck, which I think I left outside. But I'm stoked to test this out. I'm stoked to see what happens. I'm going to try to find a way to work a GoPro in there when I off-road next time so we can see just how far up it allows it to go. And yeah, this is just an install video, so if you've been around the channel, you'll know I'll do an install video on a product, and then once I actually get out in the desert, I'll be able to do a product review for you guys. So if you guys are interested to see how well this works, how far it allows it to compress, if it's going to stop the upper control arm from smashing through, if it's a product that you should be getting for your truck, make sure you subscribe and follow along, because there will be a product review video coming out on this DuroBump soon. And so far I'm pretty happy with it, because I wasn't stoked when I found out that I'm smashing my upper control arm through the bottom of this wheel well. I'm just hoping this doesn't really limit my up travel all that much. I'm hoping it allows it to be around the same, because like I said before, I didn't really feel anything aggressive when that was smashing through. I never really noticed till I just looked inside and saw that things were getting nicked up. So if it does affect the ride in a negative way, I'm going to be kind of bummed out. I'm going to have to weigh those pros and cons of, do I keep this? Do I go back to the stock one? What do I do? So yeah, stick around for this product review video. I'm going to go ahead and throw on the other side now, and I'll catch up with you guys in the next video. Right when I think this install is done, super simple 20-minute install, I fucked up, completely fucked up. The entire bolt, probably about this long, is still stuck inside the stock mounts. The reason I add this is to warn you guys. Wish me luck on figuring this out.